Welcome to Hilary Topper On Air, the podcast you can't afford to miss.
Parent, do you worry about how to help your child get ahead and succeed in today's fast-paced world? I'm Hilary Topper, and this is Hilary Topper On Air. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Ben Parris, who is a New York State certified and award-winning educator. And he's on the line with us right now, so I'm very excited. Thank you, Ben, for coming back on the show.
Thank you.
So Ben, tell us a little bit about yourself and your backgrounds.
Okay, sure. I'm a community outreach instructor and a media trainer for NASA, and I have a background in business. I went on a business track in school. I have background in science and English. I've done formal K through 12 and corporate training for decades now, as well as informal education in the museum field and for the Walt Disney Company. And I've worked with the National Science Advisor, the BNL Director, top science challenge coaches, and the top urban planners. And as a Long Island community leader, I've planned, approved, and supervised additions to Museum Row, including the restoration of Nunley's Carousel.
Wow, very impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you have a tutoring company, and it's called Ben Parris Tutoring. Talk to me a little bit about the type of students you help and what subjects you teach.
Right. Well, all of my background informs what I'm doing, and the ABCs of tutoring is always be customizing, because I can get any sort of student. We do offer a premium service, but Long Island is a place where the education system is already great in many ways, and parents in Long Island have tremendous interest in their child's education. It's shown, it reflects in it, and when I speak to parents, they have an excellent idea of what their students, what their children's needs are. So I will see, typically, I'll see a lot of North Shore students. I'll see a lot of students from the Asian community, which is interesting because in the Asian community, well, in China in particular, they go to school after school, and they may be at their after school education till 11 p.m. And then they come here, and if they can work just until 7 p.m., they feel like it's a great, relaxing break for them. So they're always relatively refreshed for tutoring, and they get into, I have a lot of enthusiastic students. I have a lot of reluctant students as well. But, because some students have mixed feelings about tutoring, and a big part of it is let's get them motivated, and let's get them not self-conscious about being tutored.
Would you say that students typically need to want to learn, or do you think that you can get them to learn even though they don't want to learn?
It depends. There's such a wide range, and there is a lot of ambivalence. Sometimes they want to. Sometimes they've had so many bad experiences with their school or their parade of teachers where there've only been one or two great teachers, and they sort of are jaded about it. They're young, jaded people, mm-hmm. and they're concerned that maybe maybe education is going to be forever boring and difficult, or certain aspects are going to be challenging for them because everybody is so individual. And some people are used to tutors, and others have never seen anyone come in and try to really meet their needs. You do that, and they love it. You break the ice, and most kids who are quite reluctant at the beginning are enthusiastic when they see the results.
Well, I'm sure you're fantastic because you're just an interesting all-around person. Could you talk a little bit about the age ranges of the students that you work with and also the subject areas?
Right. Well, I've actually tutored all ages, all the way down to parents have hired me to teach their 4-year-old chess.
Huh.
And I've had retired people who want to learn more about the computers. They've got a business going on the side. They want that help, but they're going back to school for their doctorate. I've been called into corporate training sessions where they want the whole office to be trained in a certain skill. And right now I have a marvelous class of second graders who I'm teaching creative writing. And the school was wondering whether you even could teach creative writing to second graders, but they're advanced students, and these children are so eager to learn that you can really get in there and enhance them. They have such creativity. It's not been stifled at this age, and it's they're pretty amazing, and they're fun too.
That is so awesome. You must have such a good time doing what you do.
I do. Some other times, of course, it's quite challenging. Sometimes parents love what I do so much that they will push me to tutor their child in a subject I don't tutor. It's a subject I don't even know.
Right.
and I have to go learn it and teach it to them. I'm not going to do that just for anyone.
Right.
Do that for a loyal customer who I've been working with, and they don't want to work with anyone else, and I understand that. So we go ahead and we do that.
That's incredible. Wow, that is so cool. So talk to us a little bit about how you think education has been changing in recent years and what some of the trends are.
Yes. Now, this is what's making everything so difficult now, because academics have gotten more challenging all the way from the top down.
Mm-hmm.
So in accounting, for example, the CPA test is far more complex than it ever was before. It's one of these professions where admission is restricted. If they think they have too many, they will make the test tougher and tougher and make sure that you don't pass it. Consequently, accounting classes have been expanded at every school. And lest you think you don't have to worry about the CPA test if you're not going to be a CPA, and you don't have to worry about accounting, that's not true anymore, because accounting for non-accounting majors is now required for any kind of business major.
Wow.
Every school I know.
Wow.
Yes. And there are more expectations for college applicants. There are more AP classes in high school, with younger students taking them all the time. Internships are expected on the resume. Standardized tests, such as the SAT and the ACT, are changing to better reflect success in college, and they're all falling over each other, competing to be tougher and more useful to colleges and endorsed by colleges. And that's why they work so hard to make their test hard. And at the same time, attempts have been made by those very same companies and others to eliminate tutors, which they hope will level the playing field, and that hasn't happened. The need has increased, and you're still up against the fact that everyone else engages tutors whenever they can. The reason that the need for tutors is greater than ever is because curricula that they use has been pushed all the way down to elementary school. From top to bottom, it's pushed down, and it's become more rigid. Mm-hmm. And it's making it harder than ever for teachers to accommodate students with different intelligences and learning styles, no matter how much they want to. Math has been expanded and pushed down to the lower grades. More sophisticated techniques, such as the DBQs, the document-based questions, have been pushed down to lower grades. A wide variety of experimental math solutions is taught, including ideas no parent has encountered before, and not every student can absorb. So yeah, that is creating a tremendous challenge.
Do you think that it's bad to put so much stress on these young people with all of these tests and everything?
I think it is, and I think that's not always taken into consideration. Um, so what I'll do during a tutoring session, I'll say that the child is wound up with anxiety, and it's going to be counterproductive to proceed, because like the next thing I say will not be absorbed. So I pause a minute and take them out of that scenario and tell them a little bit about what this is all about down the road, what real life is like, what a real career in that subject is like. And I give them anecdotes, and I just let them know that there's a reason for it. You know, students have perennially asked the question, what are we doing here? What are we sitting here? Why are we learning math? Why, you know, especially math. And usually the school has no good answer for it. They're not prepared to deviate and suddenly start talking about that. But if we do deviate a little bit and we can lower the anxiety level, the student can open up and learn a lot more.
So before we move on, I just want to thank our sponsors. I'm very appreciative of them. Our sponsors of Hilary Topper On Air are the Russo Law Group, MedPro, once again Nut Butter, and Fortunoff's Fine Jewelry. So Ben, back to you. Let's talk a little bit more about what can be done to help kids succeed. How can we correct these problems and keep up with the changing world of education the way it is now?
All right, well, because like I said, you're looking at something like math solutions. You don't have to just solve a problem in one way. You have to solve it in 10 ways. The parents are looking at it. They don't know how to help. The tutors have to be called in. And one of the biggest problems parents are facing right now is that the quality of tutoring has generally declined as the demand has gone up, because big corporations have franchised and repackaged tutoring as if it were fast food. Ultimately, big corporations step into every arena. Bright students are falling behind. They're lost in the system. They're not helped by walking into yet another rigid classroom. So when I come in, knowing the trends in education, some of the things we talked about, and knowing the trends in employment, that's the first step. And earliest possible planning is the key. The children who are doing best are those whose parents are hiring exclusive private tutors who can not only do subject work, but educational trajectory planning and career path planning, where all the elements are tied together. It's a rare combination. Successful parents and their advisors are helping their children make better elective choices whenever the options are offered. For example, the AP classes, as hard as they are usually transitional. They may be college credit, they're usually not quite as hard as college, but choose them wisely. Take the ones that pave the way for your degree path and lay the foundation early and easily. Parents who are successful are learning more about schools before they choose them. They're placing their children in useful internships in high school, and they're making sure that basic skills like reading and English composition, tools that cut across all subject categories, starts as early as possible, because it's about flexibility, and they're guiding the early reading selections to gear them towards the kind of material that will be tested.
So interesting. I mean, what I think you bring to this is that you've got that business expertise and you've got that educational experience, you know, so you really, it's almost totally different than most of these other tutoring companies out there, you know. Switching gears a little bit. So as a business owner, what I like to do is I like to always ask the same question to, you know, other entrepreneurs. Do you have any advice that you would give a small business owner starting out today?
I guess it parallels what I talk about for for all my students and their career path, because the preparation that you need for life is similar if you are going for a career or you're going to be an entrepreneur. There's definitely some overlap there in the sense that the earlier you start preparing yourself, the better, and the better you plan, the better it works out. But you've got to, as far as a business, you've got to make a business model. You've got to craft something and say, this is why the business is going to work. This is the pricing structure. This is the solution to the competitor problem. Now I know it's a rather big business, but I always look at the Riverhead Aquarium as my favorite of all time business model. And you study that and you see it's got the most amazing pricing structure that maximize their business and basically find solutions to problems that all the other businesses like them and unlike them are facing. So I think it's a matter of really understanding where you're going before you jump in.
And my last question to you is, so you had mentioned that you've taught students as young as 4 years old to grandparents who are going back into the workforce. What is one of the most unique topics that you have taught in your tenure?
Okay. I've had a couple of very off the beaten path requests. I was approached by a bank manager who, well, usually the off the beaten path requests have to do with somebody who's deep in their career and they have holes in their education that they're trying to fill in later. They have some crisis at work and now they're trying to address it. So I had a bank manager who asked me how to evaluate the acquisition of potential subsidiary banks. And we went, yeah. and we customized a spreadsheet for that purpose. I had a lawyer who wanted me to sit down with him and look at a will and divide an estate in an extremely complex manner that sort of doubled back on itself. But there were mathematical formulas that he knew existed, but he had forgotten. And he wanted me to build those formulas into a spreadsheet for him to handle this will and perhaps others and teach him how it worked, just so that he would know in the future. You know, that's something that's smart for anyone. That's something we try to do for anyone. Try and give someone the tools so they're independent. Basically makes me unnecessary, but at the same time, that's the best thing to do. And you have to approach it in the best way. But yeah, I've had some really intriguing requests like that.
So cool, really interesting stuff. So finally, how do people get in touch with you? How do they learn more about Ben Parris Tutoring?
Right, so www.benparris.com/tutoring is my website. I do want people to contact me at my email address, which is on there, wade.author, wade.author @gmail.com. And my phone number is 516-849-0345.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Ben, for being on the show. You know, if you guys have a need for any type of tutoring, I would highly recommend Ben Parris. I've known Ben for years, and he really is brilliant, and he could totally help you out. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, the Russo Law Group, MedPro, once again, Nut Butter, and Fortuna Fine Jewelry. And last but not least, I want to thank you, our listeners, for tuning in. If you want more information on this show or any other show, visit us at HilaryTopperOnAir.com, or you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, you name it, we're out there. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.